Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mark Loeffler Experience. Today we're going to be talking with the Airbnb specialist, John. He has his own YouTube channel to teach you how to do all this stuff. He has a video that goes through a course that's all free. He will try to sell you something, but we won't hold that against him. Basically, he's going to take us through going from a rookie at doing short-term rentals to being a professional and really analyzing the property before you buy it or before you rent it and seeing if it's going to be a good property to do it on.
Yeah.
And seeing how much profit you're going to have.
Yeah.
All right. Well, John, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah.
The number one thing that I try and help people with is what I call the first step, right? Like figuring out what the annual revenue is going to be for a specific home, right? Mm-hmm. That's hands down the hardest thing to figure out. With a long-term rental, it's easy. You just look at all the comps. But with a short-term rental, there's a ton of different factors that come into play. And so it's about how do you figure out all those different factors and figure out what you can actually expect to make, right? Yeah. And it varies like crazy, right? So there's a lot of work that kind of goes into it, but as long as you're doing the work and like going through the process, you generally can figure it out.
So, I mean, I haven't told everyone this yet, but we've started a short-term rental business ourselves. We're doing arbitrage on 5 units in Hamilton right now. It's going okay. We're making money at it. Once that happens, I'll run through the numbers, but I think we might be changing things based on what John says anyways. So
yeah, we'll see it. We'll see it exactly what happens. What I'll do, like you have 5 going on already, which is, I think is awesome. I've seen them. I've talked with Sharon about them, about like different things you can do. There's also a great thing about the data is figuring out how to maximize your revenue, right? So that's a huge piece that everyone misses, because you can have the exact same home across the street, but if you don't know how to market it or make it look good, you're going to be losing all of your money, right? Yeah. So what I recommend to everybody is AirDNA. Without a doubt, it's the software program that has all of the Airbnb data. What they do is they track every single Airbnb that exists across the entire world, and they are going into their calendar every single day, recording that calendar and pulling out all of the information. And so they can actually figure out what the annual revenue is going to be because of that. So AirDNA is your best resource, without a doubt. You can see it here. What you want to do with AirDNA is actually try and find the good data. So this is like the step 1 is finding the good data. And once you find good data, then you can rely on that and repeat it, right? So I always explain it to people as the Burger King logic, right? What we're doing here. So McDonald's spends millions of dollars to figure out what corner to be on, and Burger King opens up across the street, right?
Yeah. So
we're being the Burger King, right?
Okay.
We're finding everyone else who's already done it. They're kind of our guinea pigs. They've proved out that this area is good, and we're going to open up across the street. Right? And so a little tutorial on AirDNA and like what to look for here is that when you plug in the city that you're going into, which we have Hamilton, and you can see all the data over here, we have a map of all the different Airbnbs. So as I hover over all this, you can see all the different Airbnb listings, right? And the main thing you want to look for right off the bat is you want to find the good data. So the good data is anything that has over 250 days. So this is how many days it's actually been tracked or on for. And the reason that's important is because we want to find annual revenue, right? And with typically you would think like, oh, if it was a half a year, you just double whatever the revenue is. But the issue is seasonality, right?
Yep.
So some places have less seasonality than others, but regardless, it's not the best. It's not smart to just double. So we find these places that have over 250 to 300 plus days, and that gives us a general idea. If there's, this one I'm looking at right now is 241. So it's missing over 100 days, which means it's missing almost 3 to 4 months. So that's
a third of the year, yeah.
A third of the year, right? But it's the next 3 to 4 months, right? So you kind of keep that in mind, and you go, all right, well, that's going to be the peak season. So it's likely going to make more than it did in the past. And you kind of do the math on your own and guess a little bit, right? Okay. And that gets you to the annual revenue number, right? And the reason it's important to get that annual revenue is our annual expenses. And that's how we know if we're actually going to cash flow or not, right? Pretty basic stuff. Yeah. It's literally like, it's just basic comps, right? But understanding what this data is to make sense of it, right? Yep. So my general recommendation with everybody is to find those good pieces of data and record them in a spreadsheet. And then if you have them recorded in a spreadsheet, it's a lot easier to see a trend or see some sort of consistency, right? If I'm just looking at a bunch of dots and I have to remember all the numbers, it's not helpful, right? But if I take every single 1-bedroom in Hamilton and I line them up one row after another with each piece of information about them, I can see if there's a trend showing up or not. So I'm gonna show my product now to give like a little to show what that could look like on an extreme level.
And just on just transparency, like if you want John to do this for you, he charges you $500.
depending on the location and what you can actually get, there's different products and whatnot. But the main thing is if you wanted like all of Hamilton, you want all that information sorted and made sense for you, it'd be $500 for that spot, right? Okay. Same idea with like Muskoka and different areas.
Because you ran the numbers on Muskoka.
I did, yeah. So I have Muskoka up and running.
And he'll do specific properties. So if you're like, hey, here's the 10 things I'm going to look at.
Yeah, the Sarnia King, is that what we call him?
King of Sarnia?
King of Sarnia, yeah. The King of Sarnia. I ran numbers for him and did some spots on Muskoka, and we tried to figure that out. I can do both of those things. It kind of gives the people the comfort, right? If you're going to buy a $500,000 to $1 million cottage out in Muskoka, you spend a little bit of money to ensure that it's actually going to make $100,000 a year and you are going to cash flow off of it, or what you have to do to get to that point.
Yeah.
Look at a specific property and try and figure out if it's profitable. Take a step back. Go look at the entire market. See where within this market is the most money being made, and then what do I have to do, like what bedroom size is it, and what does that have to look like to make that amount of money. And so I think that's where these reports that I have allow for that to be done in the fastest fashion.
Oh, we all know that today's market's going down a little bit here.
Right.
A little bit.
But
you still got to act fast.
Yeah.
Like if you see a deal, it's like...
Exactly. I always say my best deal I got in 45 minutes in Chicago. It was like I walked in, I knew I wanted it. I pitched it to the guy. He was like, sure, I'll do it for you. This is arbitrage, right?
Yep.
And then I went, signed a check, signed the lease. It was all done in 45 minutes, and that one made me about $40,000 cash flow. That was a great deal. It was a great location, and the guy was open for it. And it was because I ran the numbers so many times, I knew what I was looking for.
Yeah. Well, you had other product like that.
Yeah. I didn't even have this product before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is when I was first getting started in 2018.
Okay.
Right. And so this was the way that I explained it at first, where you're just going through and putting them into a spreadsheet. Like that was the OG way that I did it to get me to that point.
Nice.
Now I have like a more sophisticated process, right?
Yeah.
But
you hired programmers to set it up for
exactly.
you.
Yeah. Like I figured out a very manual process. I got it coded out, and now we have this. So this is like, we're looking at Muskoka now, right? Okay. So unfortunately we don't have Hamilton, but looking at Muskoka now. And what you see on the left-hand side here are all the different regions. They're not really neighborhoods in Muskoka, but they're different regions, right? And up top you have all the different unit sizes. So you have the studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. And then where those connect is what the average annual revenue is. So you can see here a 1 bedroom in Huntsville on average is making about $63,000 a year. Now the beauty about this is that
So if I can go rent that for $1,500 to $1,600 and have $300 a month in costs, say even $400,
right? And
my cost is $24,000 a year, I could.
You could. You definitely could. So I'll preference this by saying that the vacation areas, it's super hard to find the rentals.
It's true,
right? Because generally most people are doing it as a vacation rental or a cottage themselves, right? However, with that being said, that brings in the third model of Airbnb, which is management, right? So if you find somebody who has a really great place, but they only use it for their family every once in a while, you approach them and say like, I'll run it full time for you because I know how well it could do, and then you can use it whenever you want.
It's like my place in Canmore.
Yeah. Is that how it's set up right now?
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. So, and you pay them probably 20%, somewhere around there?
25. Yep.
25. Yeah. And that's the norm, right? And you make $100,000, they're taking $25,000, something like that, right? And so, vacation areas, that's generally the thing that's going to work best. But there's some people who will rent their homes, right? They want the steady cash flow. Maybe you're paying a little bit more, but if you know your numbers, that's the beauty of it. If you know your numbers and how much you can make, then you kind of are getting a deal on the landlord. They get what they want and you get what you want. Actually, in Chicago, where I had my business, I looked for the premium rents because they actually ended up making way more money because a larger unit does better. So if you see here in Muskoka, if we're looking at this entire area, we can all you have to do is just, where's the biggest number, right? It's literally that simple. Where's the biggest number? Oh, it's here or it's here. Okay, let's dive deeper into that and learn what we have to do to make that amount of money in that area. And so it's a matter of just like double clicking it. And now we're looking at all of the 5 bedrooms in this, I think it's Huntsville. And you can organize it by who's making the most or who's making the least. And now you can see there's some people doing over 200,000, some people doing under 200,000.
Would that take into account that maybe they're using it themselves as well?
I can see that these aren't necessarily the full year, so it's less than a full year.
Okay.
Which means that they're likely using it themselves. Now, you can either account for it or not.
Yep.
If you're going to be managing someone else's home, it really doesn't matter.
Yep.
Because you're making money, and so 1 month maybe you don't make as much. If you're doing rental arbitrage, right? You want that to be rented out full time.
100%.
100%, right? So if you're seeing someone doing 200,000 over 298 days, which is what it says here, you got another 2 months of additional revenue. So you know you could do, they could be doing more than 200,000. So you just factor that in with whatever you're doing and trying to look at in that area.
Yep.
If a home's making $200,000 a year and you can rent that home for $10,000 a month, you're going to make $80,000 or like a $50,000 profit on that rental arbitrage. It's a huge risk.
Yeah.
Or a larger risk. It's not a huge risk, right?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's only a risk if you don't run these numbers.
Exactly.
And if you don't know your numbers and you don't know what you're getting into because you're shooting blind.
You're shooting blind and you're just hoping. And that's actually what you just said is the whole reason why I have this business. Yeah. Because I did that myself at first and I lost like 10 grand on the first home and 15 grand on the next home. Just like 2 rentals that I didn't run the numbers properly, never made me my money back. Had no use for the furniture and it just went to waste, right? Yeah. And it, like when you buy all the furniture and you try and resell it, you're selling it for like
$97.
Exactly, yeah. Right? So I figured out this process and then I actually got highlighted by this person on his podcast about my homes that were doing really well. And I told anyone who was listening, I'm like, you can reach out to me, here's my email. And I ended up talking to a whole bunch of people who were like, had just terrible homes, terrible locations, was never going to work out for them. And they were just, they essentially put a whole bunch of money out, worked really hard on them and got nothing in return. And so I was like, okay, there's literally a need for this process. And that's why I created the course. How do you figure out the numbers? Here's a way, right? Yeah. The whole thing about data is you need to find a trend, right? Find some sort of consistency. You can see that, then you know you can be profitable.
So I know we were talking about the Polka Notes.
Yeah. Why
don't you run, because these were actual listed properties. Guy was looking at these properties and you ran the numbers on them based on that address and that specific property, right?
Yeah.
And that filtered out to, this is your cash on cash return. This is...
Yeah. So Poconos are I almost feel like I shouldn't talk about them. They're like the secret little area, but but every market kind of gets figured out, right? Yeah. So there's some general areas right now that are pretty impressive, and the Poconos is definitely one of them. And
Asheville?
Asheville?
Asheville? I said Nashville.
But... So Nashville has always been like extreme. Yeah. Their regulations though have gone extremely strict. So if you can get one in Nashville, that's amazing. Asheville is kind of up and coming.
Okay. I don't even know where Asheville is.
I don't really either, but I know it's in the same general area.
Okay.
Yeah. They name everything with Ville at the end in Tennessee. So
there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is a deal here that I did for one of my clients. It's in the Poconos, 5-bedroom, 2-bath. He bought it for $319,000. And these are the comps and the annual revenue that they're making in the other homes that are all 5 bedrooms, all in the same general area. And there's a lot of differences between all these. Like you can see that one home's making 182 and the other one's making 89. That's a huge swing, right? But there's reasons why they're doing that. And if you go through the data and you actually look at the listings, you can actually understand what amenities are driving the revenue, right? Yeah. And honestly, it comes down to the home is big and the home has wood inside. And so the big is like it's as simple as that. And the big is because they're 5 bedrooms, they're hosting large groups, and it's like usually like 2-3 families coming together.
For sure.
The wood gives the authentic feeling of being in the woods in a cabin. And so people pay more for those 2 things. And if you don't have those 2 things, you're gonna make less. And
it's that simple.
It's that simple, and it's that simple in every single market, which also blows my mind. So every single place that you go, so if you're going to Florida and you're going to be along the edge of the beach, you don't want a log cabin, right?
That's fair. Yeah.
You want that beach theme, right? Because that's what you probably pictured in your head as I was saying it, right? Yeah. And so if you can give people that, they'll pay a premium, right? And so Airbnb is a very emotional thing, whereas other stuff, maybe isn't, but. So anyway, this home here, I think he can make about $110,000 a year on this home. I originally was saying that he could probably make $130,000. I still think he can, but that's sort of his top, right?
Yeah. So you give him a range.
I give him a range, and I always like to underpredict. I used to be an investor, and it's like you always want to give lower options. But so then after all the expenses, you can pause the screen, look at this, and go through it. But he should cash flow about $57,000 on this. He's going to have to put in about... So there's a 10% mortgage you can get in the States for homes that are considered a vacation home that's 50 miles away from your house, primary house, okay? So that's why you see the 10% here. And then he's going to put in another about 60 for upgrades, furniture, hot tub, all that stuff. He's going to paint the entire outside of the house black because that's, once again, it's just a very appealing, right?
Yep.
That's actually driven revenue. So he's about $100,000 in. So he'll cash flow about 58% on that money. Cash on cash, yeah. So cash on cash.
So if you guys want to make 58% cash on cash,
yeah,
reach out to John. He'll sort you out.
Yeah, that's the I can analyze these properties for you. What I'm actually trying to get into is finding the properties and sourcing the properties, and then getting people, investors, these deals and working with them to actually put them together.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where there's a huge need, right? Everyone has the money, but they just don't have the deals. And so if I can find people these types of deals with my sort of credibility of going through so many listings, then it kind of, I think I could get a part of a lot of these deals too.
100%.
Yeah. So
cool.
That's the goal.
Man, this is really awesome. I wish that we had known you before we got our 5 right now.
Yeah, okay. And you know me now.
We know you now, so we're gonna go back and reanalyze those. And I'll do a video just on those when I have all my numbers in. And let's see if comment down below. Do you think I'm gonna make money or I'm not? You guys let me know. There's a 3-bedroom, 3 2-bedrooms, and a 1-bedroom, all in Hamilton, 2 on the mountain, 3 downtown. So comment down below. Let me know if you guys think I'm gonna make any money. Well, John, we're gonna link your YouTube below. We're gonna put your contact there. Instagram is good. Or whatever. Yeah. We'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll put your contact information down below. Man, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been great to meet you, and I'm sure we're gonna talk much more in the future.